Jim Jones just stepped into a storm he clearly wasn't ready for. He didn't just come at one legend, he came for three of the most respected names in the rap game: Nas, Pusha T, and No Malice. And now, he's learning real quick that picking fights with heavyweights who move in silence but strike with precision is a bad move. What started off like just another slick comment turned into a straight-up industry earthquake. Jim might have thought his words would fade out in the noise, but nope. Instead, he accidentally lit the fuse that brought a sleeping giant back to life. This wasn't just about throwing shade. This sparked the rebirth of Clipse. It all popped off when Jim boldly questioned whether Nas was still relevant in today's rap game. That alone had fans in shock, but when he threw in that he never felt Pusha T's music meant anything to him, oh, that was the line that got the whole culture side-eyeing him. The reactions came fast and loud. From hip-hop heads to industry titans, people weren't having it. Things went next level when the wave of this drum...
Pusha T or Malice?
To keep it a buck, I'm gonna go with Pusha T, so we're not gonna drink to them.
I'ma reach Paris Fashion Week. Yes, Pharrell, Beyonce, and Jay-Z were front row when this tension turned global. The timing, wild, the energy, tense, and Jim, well, he might have just written himself into a chapter of history he can't erase. Now the question is, did Jim realize who he was really playing with? Jim's words didn't just stir the pot, they lit the whole thing on fire. And Clipse, especially Pusha T and No Malice, they didn't waste a second. They used that energy to launch one of the coldest comeback strategies hip-hop has seen in years. In a twist nobody saw coming, Jim basically handed them the spotlight on a silver platter. Out of nowhere, he became...
Yo! Let's go! Yo! Yo! It's 2 years like I was bad right cruising. It's the show, it's your tongue scabbing and consuming. I was just assuming you keep it going, but I got one question.
Became the perfect setup piece. Not for a diss war, but for a calculated takeover. When Jim arrogantly said, "They know about Nas, my son Harlem," it wasn't just Harlem that stopped. It felt like the entire hip-hop universe froze. Everyone could sense it. Something serious had just been triggered. See, Jim didn't just throw a shot. He straight up dragged Nas's whole legacy into the convo, unprovoked, and tried to play it off like it was mid to this new generation. That was bold, but guess what? That wasn't even his wildest take that week. Instead of falling back, Jim went full throttle. He kept repeating the same comments on every major platform that was
done. Harlem didn't just pause. Hip-hop stopped to watch the fallout unfold, realizing something major had just been set in motion.
But Nas always came up second to Jay and DMX and all these other people. Like,
ain't no shame in that. There a lot of folks came up second to Tom Brady.
He never had that type of influence on us, except for his first album.
Would give him a mic. He clowned around on The Breakfast Club, popped off on Bag Fuel, chopped it up on Nightcap with Shannon Sharp, and even kept it rolling during random street interviews and live streams.
Amplified it. He repeated his comments across multiple platforms. The Breakfast Club,
He wasn't dodging anything. He was doubling down and laughing in the middle of the fire. At one point, he tried to clean it up, saying he was just being honest as a fan. But before anyone could breathe, boom, he dropped an even bolder claim that left people speechless. On Bag Fuel, Jim Jones boldly claimed he was the reason Nas was even trending again.
Bit clear where he stands in this interview for Complex.
I would say he's the greatest of all times. The relevancy that he keeps showing year after year, hit after hit, record after record. Any record that he has put out has seemed to go multiple platinum. Like, that's never has happened before in this history. I mean, there's a few other people that do astronomical numbers like that, but he really in it. Like, you know what I mean?
According to Jim, nobody had been checking for Nas like this in years, not since the days of Ether. He literally said on camera, viral at all, ever, ever. Like he really believed he brought Nas back into relevance. Wild. But here's where the whole thing flipped hard. Jim clearly didn't realize who he was poking at. Nas, he's not the type to trade jabs in comment sections or cook up clapbacks on IG Live. That's not his game. He doesn't make noise, he makes moves, silent, powerful, billionaire-level moves. He doesn't bark, he builds empires. While Jim was cracking up in interviews and throwing shots for clicks, Nas was doing what legends do. He was plotting something massive, and his silence, that wasn't weakness. That was checkmate energy. Behind the scenes, Nas wasn't stressing. He was already working on a response so big, it didn't need a beat or a bar. While Jim was out here chasing clout, Nas was laying the groundwork for one of the biggest cultural investments in Queens.
I'm way more influential than Nas, and I don't care what nobody say. I know I made a little boo-boo when you talk about the sales and all this type of shit. I don't feel like getting into that rhetoric about where I started and where he started.
Well, you said that bullshit.
But listen, Nas was nice when I was in high school. When I was in 10th grade, Nas came out. Nas was dope. We appreciated him. He had a little bit of run.
History. No diss tracks, no Twitter rants, just a move so heavy it shook the room without a word. Then boom, Nas hit Instagram with the perfect response, an ad promoting a jaw-dropping $5 billion casino development project in Queens. His caption, "Time to invest in us." No hashtags, no subs, no drama, just real boss talk. That wasn't a business post. That was a flex so smooth it left the whole internet stunned. Nas didn't just respond, he leveled up. The message was clear. I'm too wealthy for this conversation. If Jim had just let it go after the Nas situation, maybe, just maybe, things would have cooled down. But nope, he kept talking. And this time, he fired off at Pusha T. Out of nowhere, Jim claimed Pusha didn't even crack his top 50 rappers list. Another wild take. And this time, it hit way deeper than he expected. See, Jim probably thought he was just tossing out another opinion. But this one didn't just reach Pusha, it landed straight in the ears of No Malice too. And now fans are buzzing with one big question. Did Jim Jones just accidentally reunite Clipse after nearly 15 years apart? Let's rewind for a second. Clipse had been moving in the shadows for a while, doing their own thing, not act.
The future is not something you wait for, it's something you build. It lives in the hands of the doers, the dreamers, the people who refuse to stand still. Resorts World is more than a casino. It's energy, it's opportunity, it's hope for the borough. A second chance for some, a first step for many. It's where community gathers, not just to win, but to build a future once imagined. This isn't just business, this is legacy. And now, it's time to invest.
Dropping music as a duo. It looked like that chapter was closed. But months before Jim started running his mouth, Pusha T dropped a hint in a Rolling Stone interview. He revealed he'd been trying to get his brother back in the booth. His exact words, "I'm like, yo, listen to what I just made. We can really do this." At the time, No Malice wasn't sold. He brushed it off. The timing just wasn't right. But the door, it was cracked open. Then Jim Jones barged in with that loud energy, and boom, that might have been the final push that reignited the Clipse flame. Pusha once said it
had been low-key for a long time, moving separately, not publicly working on music together. But months before Jim made headlines, Pusha T hinted at something in a Rolling Stone interview. He revealed he'd been trying to bring his brother back into the studio. His exact
straight up, "If I had it my way, it would be Clipse." But he also made it clear, it was never just his call. Now, it's starting to feel like the universe, and Jim's mouth might have made the decision for them. It all came down to one thing, his brother. And without even realizing it, Jim Jones might have handed No Malice the perfect reason to step back into the spotlight. Suddenly, all the whispers about a Clipse reunion started heating up, especially after that surprise moment at Pharrell's Something in the Water Festival in Virginia Beach. Fans lost it when Clipse hit the stage together in 2022. It felt like a time machine just dropped in the middle of the crowd. But that was just the beginning. The noise only got louder when the brothers showed up at Chicago's Hyde Park Summerfest, running through bangers from Lord Willin' and Hell Hath No Fury. But here's the twist. No Malice didn't look like he was there for a quick nostalgia trip. Nah, he looked focused. He looked hungry again. Then came the moment that flipped the whole situation on its head. At Paris Fashion Week, the Clipse brothers were spotted strutting down the runway with Pharrell, who had just taken over as the men's creative director for Louis Vuitton. Yeah, this was high-level chess, not checkers. And guess who was watching it all unfold from the front row? Jay-Z and Beyonce, locked in, eyes glued to the moment. But it wasn't just a fashion flex. Right in the middle of the show, something crazy happened. Out of nowhere, the speakers blasted a brand new Clipse track. It wasn't a throwback. It wasn't a remix. It was fresh, raw, and unapologetically them. That gritty, sharp delivery, that was a statement. That's when fans realized it's real, no more rumors. The return of Clipse had officially begun. And that track, it wasn't just heat, it had a clear target. And everybody knew who it was aimed at. Jim Jones got called out, directly. Pusha T wasn't throwing hints and he wasn't rapping in riddles. His message was sharp, clear, and locked straight on Jim. But this wasn't your typical diss record. Nah, this was artillery in verse form, a poetic strike crafted with surgical precision. And where did they drop this bomb? Not on radio, not on YouTube, but at Paris Fashion Week, the biggest stage in fashion, culture, and power. And the mastermind behind the whole setup, none other than Pharrell. With the Clipse making their official return, Pharrell, now the creative director of Louis Vuitton menswear, gave them a global runway to make their statement. This wasn't just music, this was chess, strategic, slick, and cold-blooded.
Do you like the new song?
No, but you know.
You don't like Ace Trumpets?
What's so great about it?
It's so good.
The second that new Clipse track hit the speakers, fans knew what was up. They didn't need press releases or Instagram captions, they connected the dots instantly. This wasn't just about Jim's wild takes. This was a response to years of slick talk and sneak disses. And the fact that it debuted in front of Jay-Z, Beyonce, and the world's elite, that was no accident. It was calculated revenge. Now here's the deeper layer. Jim had been publicly hyping up Drake, Pusha T's longtime rival. He even went so far as to call Drake the greatest rapper of all time during his Complex appearance. That wasn't just praise, that was a line in the sand, and Pusha saw it clearly. So when Clipse returned, they didn't do it with a rollout, no marketing, no hype machine, just a lethal verse, a runway debut, and a cultural mic drop that shook the room. Jim might have thought he was just giving opinions, but Pusha T and No Malice were playing a whole different game, and he unknowingly gave them the perfect opening scene for their next chapter. Now the question everybody's asking is this: did Jim Jones just hand No Malice the coldest comeback in recent hip-hop history? Or did he accidentally set the stage for his own downfall? The wild part? Clipse hasn't even dropped a full album yet, and the shockwaves are already hitting the culture.
My son can't tell you one Nas record. You heard? Like, let's keep it a buck here.
Yeah, but
like, let's keep
hard. And behind all of it, Pharrell, the mastermind, pulling every single string like a silent puppeteer. Let's be real. Pharrell wasn't just a producer to Clipse, he's family. He helped shape their entire sound, their identity, their legacy. So when Jim went on record dismissing the Clipse catalog, mocking their influence and calling them irrelevant, that wasn't just a jab at Pusha T, that was a straight shot at everything Pharrell, No Malice, and the whole movement stood for. And here's where it gets crazy. Nobody expected No Malice to return. For over a decade, he stayed quiet. The older brother who stepped away from the spotlight had fully embraced his faith, choosing peace over pressure, and letting the rap game move on without him. While Pusha stayed in the heat of battle, No Malice made it crystal clear. He had no interest in ever coming back to rap. That's why, when his voice suddenly echoed through the speakers during that Louis Vuitton runway show in Paris, the entire industry didn't just blink. They froze. It wasn't nostalgia. It was a warning shot. A calm, calculated sign that the Clipse weren't done. Not even close. Jim might have thought he was sparking debates, but what he really did, he woke up a giant. And now, everyone's watching to see what happens next. Because this comeback, it's looking legendary. This wasn't just a comeback, it was a full-on shift in the energy. Let's really break it down. No Malice didn't hop on the mic tossing out random bars. Nah, his verses were surgical. Every line was layered, targeted, and calculated. And one bar hit like a sniper shot. Bird talk, we all parrots. That wasn't just wordplay. That was a direct hit on Bird Gang, Jim Jones's crew and brand. A slick coded shot that hit harder than a loud diss. And it didn't stop there. No Malice dropped city names like Paris and Dallas, and trust, that was no coincidence. Those were the exact same cities Jim had just name-dropped in a freestyle over the Chains and Whips beat. No Malice wasn't reacting, he was dissecting, bar for bar, location for location. He flipped Jim's own lyrics back on him with precision, like a seasoned vet who's been watching closely from the shadows. This wasn't just beef, it was a strategic re-entry, a return to the mic from an MC who didn't need to prove a thing, but had plenty to say. It was clear, No Malice had been listening, but more than that, he'd been preparing. Quietly, patiently, stacking bars in the dark, waiting for the right moment to strike. And now, his comeback didn't feel like some nostalgic throwback. It felt like a warning shot, a lyrical statement meant to restore order. And guess who gave him the perfect opening? Jim Jones. It all spiraled when Jim posted a video to Instagram, laughing off Pusha T's Paris verse, brushing it off like it was nothing. But while Jim was laughing on IG, No Malice was loading up behind the scenes, and when he spoke, it wasn't loud, but it was undeniable. But when Jim Jones pulled up on Drink Champs, everything shifted. NORE brought up that Clipse track, and for a split second, Jim let his guard down. The tough guy mask slipped, and that moment said everything. He admitted the diss hit a nerve. Sure, he tried to brush it off like it was no big deal, but you could see it. The cracks were starting to show. Not long after, Jim jumped in the booth and fired back with his Chains and Whips freestyle, rapping over the exact same beat Clipse had used to fire their warning shot. It wasn't just a clapback, it was a scramble. A move made out of urgency, not control. Then came the BET Awards. During a quick backstage interview with Bootleg Kev, Jim went into damage control mode again. When asked about Clipse's new track, Chains and Trumpets, he straight up dismissed it, called it too heavy on nostalgia, claimed the bars weren't anything special. But the more he talked, the more it started to sound off. This wasn't confidence, this was frustration. Jim didn't sound like a cool-headed veteran brushing off some competition. He sounded like a rapper who felt the heat, like someone caught off guard by a comeback that came sharp.
Make some noise for the Clipse. This is the Genesis. Now hold on. DC. Make some noise for the Clipse, y'all. It's all right.
And louder than expected. Because let's be real, what do you do when the legends you once mocked suddenly respond and the whole industry tunes in? You've got two choices, double down or disappear. And right now, Jim's voice is getting lost in the noise. Instead of stepping back, he grabbed the mic and a shovel. Just when people thought he might finally ease off, Jim doubled down again. He's still talking, still pushing, still digging, but the question now is, how deep does this hole go? Jim Jones just couldn't let it go. During his appearance on Nightcap with Shannon Sharp, he reignited the drama, this time going after Nas again. With full confidence, Jim claimed that Nas was never truly influential in hip-hop culture. According to him, Nas had always been second to icons like Jay-Z and DMX, but then he dropped the wildest take yet. With a straight face, Jim said, "That's like saying Jordan fell off after Space Jam." That line instantly lit up social media. Viewers clapped back hard, calling it delusional, disrespectful, and flat-out proof that Jim was chasing clout instead of showing love to one of rap's most respected voices. While Jim kept tossing gas on the fire, Clipse was cooking up something much deeper, quietly, methodically. They officially launched the rollout for their long-anticipated reunion album, Let God Sort 'Em Out. And for the ones who thought Chains and Whips was the final punch, nah, that was just the warm-up. This wasn't your average album drop. This was a full-blown cultural reset. The timing, perfect. The features, powerful. The message, laser-focused. Clipse didn't just return to make noise. They came back to reclaim position. No gimmicks, no messy interviews, just bars and execution at the highest level. And the contrast couldn't be clearer. While Jim stayed tangled in debates and controversy, Clipse let the music do the talking. Their comeback wasn't about riding old waves. It was about setting the new tone in hip-hop. Let God Sort 'Em Out hit like a mission statement. The sound was sharp, the intent undeniable, and the energy, different. Clipse wasn't here to reminisce. They were here to dominate. And just like that, the message echoed loud. Forget the talk, let the bars speak, and let the culture decide. The moment Let God Sort 'Em Out hit streaming platforms, the entire hip-hop landscape shifted. Clipse didn't just return, they took over the conversation with force. Social media went into overdrive. Fans were breaking down bars. Industry legends were giving props, and younger rappers. They were watching and taking notes. This comeback wasn't about proving they still had it. It was about reminding everybody why Clipse was once feared every time they touched a mic. The production, Pharrell snapped. It was crisp, cinematic, and carried that signature menacing bounce only he can pull off. And the bars, they were razor sharp, laced with double meanings, raw street wisdom, and depth that had fans pausing, rewinding, and decoding line after line. But the real surprise came from No Malice. For someone who stepped away from the game for over a decade, his delivery hit like a hammer. His tone, heavy, measured, ice cold. Every word carried weight, real weight. Listeners weren't just impressed, they were stunned by the precision of it all. This wasn't a casual return, it was a chessboard takeover. Pusha T came in swinging, still sharp and savage, but no malice. He brought that elevated energy, a mix of grit and grown man wisdom that only comes from time away and a sharpened perspective. And while Clipse was leveling up, Jim Jones was trending, but not for his music. His name became meme material. His interviews were getting clipped and clowned, and the more he spoke, the more obvious it became. He had lost control of the narrative. Now the conversation has fully flipped. Nobody's questioning if Clipse can still hang. They're asking who's even in their league anymore. As the hip-hop world heats up with debates, one thing's crystal clear. Clipse didn't come back to fit in. They came back to shake the entire table. And now, everybody else is scrambling just to stay in the room. The feature list on Let God Sort 'Em Out said it loud and proud. This wasn't just a reunion, it was a cultural reset. We're talking Nas, Kendrick Lamar, Tyler, The Creator, The Dream, and John Legend, all on one project, all guided by Pharrell as executive producer. That's not a feature list, that's a statement. The energy around the album, undeniable. But just when things seemed locked in, the story took a wild turn. Originally, the album was supposed to drop through Def Jam. That was the plan, until Def Jam allegedly tried to censor Kendrick Lamar's verse. Word spread fast in the industry. According to insiders, Kendrick was subtly airing out names like Drake, Travis Scott, and the fake behind-the-scenes politics that run the machine. He wasn't naming names, but everyone knew who the shots were aimed at. Rather than bow down or water anything down, Clipse made a power move. They pulled the entire album from Def Jam and walked it straight over to Roc Nation. That right there, boss behavior. They weren't just coming back as lyrical legends. They were stepping back in as real power players. And for anyone still wondering, who does Pusha T even have in his corner? That track list answered it loud and clear. Nas, Kendrick, Pharrell. Yeah, the room got real small for the doubters. Meanwhile, Jim Jones, he wasn't just catching stray disses, he was getting phased out. Not blackballed, not canceled, just quietly benched. And for someone whose whole brand was built on being loud and visible, that silence, that hit way harder than any diss track ever could. Now, as the streets patiently wait for that explosive Clipse and Nas collab to drop, the tone is already locked in. This ain't just another track. It's being looked at as a full-blown lyrical burial. Jim Jones might still be posting, recording, cracking jokes, but while he's stuck on damage control, deals are closing, visuals are rolling out, and the industry is moving on without him. At this point, the question isn't will Jim clap back, it's will anybody even care if he does? He wanted to go viral. Now he's standing solo, watching the game evolve with his name fading from the conversation. The same artist who once prided himself on always being visible might have just ended up writing himself out of hip-hop's next chapter. And listen, if you're into these raw, unfiltered deep dives into the biggest moves and beefs shaking the culture, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that bell icon so you never miss what's really going on behind the scenes. Drop a comment below. Do you think Jim still has a shot to turn it around, or has Clipse officially closed that chapter? Share this with a real hip-hop head, and we'll see you back here for the next one. Tap the next video to keep watching. It only gets crazier from here.